This is my 1926 Ford Model TT 1-ton truck. When I got it, it came with this flatbed, and somebody did a pretty decent job on it. The only problem is it's not very useful to me as a flatbed. So the goal for this video would be to fabricate a bed for it. There's about 101 different ways I could go about doing this. I've decided that a bed with relatively short sides is going to be the best way to go for me. So the first thing to do will be to take some measurements. Because these are already existing, I'm going to use these as the mounting brackets for the side of the bed up front. And then I think I'll model the other mounts off of these as I go backwards. Like perhaps a triangle shape in the middle. I think I'll go with that plan. Weld a couple of mounts here that more or less match the angle of the front pieces. And then one straight up and down mount in the back, probably angle iron. And then I'll have another bracket going like this that matches the front. The pieces of wood that I think I will use, they'll be about that tall from the bed rail there. So it'll still be easy to reach over the side, and that'll be plenty tall enough to contain anything that happens to me in the bed. For the tailgate, it's going to be the same height. So I think what I'll do with the angle iron pieces in the rear corners in conjunction with the boards that will go down the sides, I'll make a slot on both sides just large enough for the piece of wood that will be the tailgate to slide down into those grooves. If I ever want to go without the tailgate, then I'll just simply have to slide it up and take it out. So this is not the correct board, but this will just give me an idea of how it's actually going to look. It'll be, about that much taller. I plan on using 1x12s, but that's generally the look I'm going to go for. I'm actually going to loosely model this off of my other Model T truck. This one's actually a car with a truck bed on it. This one here, you can see these are also 1x12s on the tailgate and also on the sides. I don't think I'm going to mount top pieces like this. I think I'm just going to leave it as the bed. But this is the basic design that I'm going to try to go with. I'm planning on using carriage bolts and square head nuts. I've got those both coming in the mail tomorrow from McMaster-Carr. So first I'll get my thoughts down on paper, transfer that to a digital model just to make sure I'm not missing anything and I like the way it looks. And then after that, I'll be ready to start fabricating. So now I want to try to measure the angle of this piece. I want to get the rest of the supports down along the sides to pretty much match this angle so it looks symmetrical. You know, if I've got the middle pieces, you know, one's like this and one's like that, it's just not going to look quite right. So I want to try to copy this angle. All right, so my pieces are all cut and prepped for weld. right, this is the moment of truth. This is the gap that the tailgate's gonna slide down into. Well, I don't think I can get it much closer than that. I'm happy with that. So that's basically what the tailgate's gonna look like in the corner. And it slides out. All right, the last thing I'm gonna do today is drill all these holes in the wood. And I still need to drill 2 holes in the metal and the wood up here. And then I'll get the hardware on, just loosely mounted, and keep it in place. And then tomorrow I'll do the other side and paint. Well, do you notice what I forgot? But no big deal. That's why I take the time to mock things up, to make sure I'm not forgetting anything, make sure everything lines up. So tomorrow I just need to weld this up, drill 2 holes for the bolts, put the bolts in it, and this side will be done and ready for paint. Well, I'm happy with how this is turning out so far. More or less going according to design. All right, it's the next day. I've been working on this for an hour and a half so far. I've got all the supports welded up, got the holes drilled, even got the board cut. But I am presented with a bit of a challenge here. You see that gap towards the end? That is not the board. The board is straight. So I did not anticipate the bed being crooked. Big old piece of angle iron goes along down the side rails there. I'm gonna think about this and see if I can make it a little bit better somehow. Well, I pretty much resolved that issue by removing material from the bottom of the board here with a couple different tools of mass destruction, sanders and grinders and things like that. At least the gap is more uniform now. So I think that's good enough for that problem. By removing material from the bottom of the board, it changed how the board sat on the bed, right? So it didn't fit square anymore. And it threw off my cut back here. Now, of course, I made a straight cut, but the board was sitting a little bit off kilter because of the modification. So I had to come in here and true up this gap all the way down, which was quite time consuming, as was the larger modification. Those 2 things combined probably took me at least 3 hours. But I got this side done. I got everything welded up and drilled, got the bolts in. The side panels are mounted and mocked up. I like the way everything fits. And of course I remember this piece on this side. And I've got the other one mounted on this side now as well. All right, so here again, here's the gap that I made for the tailgate. This was easy because the board and the bed rail were more or less straight. So I just made my straight cut here and I just cut it to the right length. and it pretty much dropped right in. But like I said, this one was, that was a bigger problem. All right, let me show you the tailgate. It's a little bit tight yet, but I can work with that. Here are the corners. Here's what it looks like from the back. I think this tailgate needs some sort of a design. The supports on the sides are, of course, structural and necessary, but with their angles, I think it also gives it kind of a cool style. So when we come back to the tailgate and it's just, you know, flat, nothing, seems like it needs something. So I'll think about that. Now I have to take both sides back off and the tailgate back off so I can paint both sides of the support brackets and the angle iron in the rear. And then while I'm doing that, I'll touch up the boards in the places that I had to sand or modify them. After painting and reassembly, it will pretty much be done, except for whatever I'm gonna do at the tailgate. And I also have a surprise I'm gonna show you when everything is all done. I'm gonna add one more thing to the bed up here. All right, the first coat of paint is on, and it's still wet actually in certain places. I like the fit of the tailgate before I painted it, and now it's a little sticky, so I think I need to sand the edges back down a little bit and then repaint them again. So it's easy to get up and down on that slot. I don't want to struggle with it. Right now it's pretty stiff. So tomorrow I'll give it one more coat of paint, get everything touched up, get that tailgate sanded down just a little bit so it slides up and down nicely, and put some sort of design on the outside of the tailgate. I haven't decided what yet. And then that surprise I mentioned earlier for up front in the bed. Good morning. It's about 26 degrees. It's supposed to warm up to 45 and be a nice day. Okay, let's wrap up this project. The first chore for today will be to get these edges sanded down a little bit so they slide up and down on the slots nice and freely. I do want to keep the tailgate sort of snug so it's not rattling around when I'm going down the road, but I also want it to be easy to lift in and out when I want to. So I just need to take a little material off of both ends, and I think that'll do it. All right, here's my idea for a design for the tailgate. Just trying to keep it simple, but I think it'll look nice. Did you know you can determine angles with a speed square? Okay, well, I'm waiting for the tailgate to dry. I'm going to finish up this paint on the truck. Yesterday, I thought I might add a second coat of paint, but I've decided against that. I gotta remember what I'm working with here too. This is a 1926 vehicle. And I mean, I love it. It's in great condition, but it's not in show condition. You can see the paint is not terribly shiny. It's got imperfections all over the place and scratches, and that's part of what gives it its character, in my opinion. So why would I put a perfect paint job on my new bed? So I'm actually going to take some Scotch-Brite and distress the paint back here a little bit so it sort of blends with the rest of the truck. I think I'm gonna like this a lot better. Take some paint off the top of the rails here a little bit. So I need to knock down the paint on this tailgate, put it on the truck. And I also have that one final addition that I said I was going to put in the bed. And here's that surprise final edition I mentioned earlier. Toolbox. I actually made a video on this a couple years ago, and that ended up being just a little bit too tall for the running board on my car, but it's actually perfect for the back of this truck. I've got it mounted to the bed, one on each side, so it's not going anywhere. Like I said, I had already restored this before, so it's all ready to go. And I even have a period correct padlock for it. The Ford lock. All right, let's take one final walk around this thing. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you next time.